All right, guys, big one today. I'm going to rank all 11 Star Wars movies. So we got the three trilogies plus Solo plus Rogue One. I'm not going to do the Clone Wars movie, live action only. It's time we bring some sanity back to the Star Wars fan base, and I'm going to do it beginning with this ranking. So let's get into it. Coming in at last, the biggest piece of dog shit movie that's ever graced the Star Wars universe. Normally, I keep it pretty tame on this channel, but I'm not with this movie. Probably my least favorite movie of all time. I absolutely hate this movie. It drives me nuts, people who have this as their number one Star Wars movie. It's the biggest cap of all time. This movie is terrible. Now, it might be a good movie. It might look good, sound good. It's not a disaster that way. But in terms of a Star Wars movie, it's absolutely terrible. What they did to Luke Skywalker is against everything the original trilogies stood for. People are like, oh, it's not your movie, it's Rian Johnson's movie. Bullshit. It's not his movie or his franchise to just come in and totally wreck. It wrecked the franchise. Mando kind of saved it. I'm going to do a separate review on this because I'm running out of time, but just fuck this movie. Coming in at 10, Rise of Skywalker. Now, the only reason I don't have this movie last is because by the time we got to this movie, it pretty much didn't matter. There were no stakes anyway. It was Last Jedi that ruined the sequel trilogy. So you could put this movie last and say it's worse than The Last Jedi, but by the time we got to this, I was just like, whatever at this point, so it didn't even matter. Coming in at 9, Solo. Now, this movie, even though I have it at 9, I don't necessarily dislike it. I think they tried some good things. It's just simply not as good as the other movies. I have too much nostalgia for the prequels with the original characters. But the ending of this movie was one of my favorite moments in Star Wars. With Darth Maul coming back, it didn't lead anywhere, but just seeing him come back, kind of confirming that he's alive, even though we knew it from Clone Wars, was amazing. It's definitely worth watching if you haven't seen it. It's a little choppy because they had so many reshoots and there's some drama behind the scenes, but overall, not a bad movie. It gets shit on way too much. Coming in at number 8, The Force Awakens. Now, I'm sorry, guys, I can just not put this movie ahead of Attack of the Clones or Phantom Menace. I don't care what you say about those movies. This movie is not better. It's a total regurgitation of A New Hope. J.J. Abrams did nothing unique. He had the dream job of every director rebooting Star Wars, and he gave us this mediocre piece of crap. It's just everything is the same. The Death Star, the stuff with Kylo Ren. I mean, it's a pretty good movie. He started off good, but because it goes nowhere, it's a tough watch because we know it's going nowhere. I'll never forget what they did to Finn. They made it seem like Finn was look at the poster. They make it seem like Finn is a Jedi. It turns out he's just a janitor. It's a terrible bait and switch. They knew what they were doing there. So yeah, it's a good Star Wars movie, but it just doesn't lead anywhere. And it's like, why would I watch this if I can watch A New Hope? Coming in at 7, Phantom Menace. Now, this and Attack of the Clones, I had a tough time. I kind of go back and forth on these two. It's really tough. I love Darth Maul. Ultimately, I give the edge to Attack of the Clones just because of the Yoda fights and the Count Dooku stuff. But this movie was really, really good. Anyone who says any of the sequel movies are better than this movie, I don't know what they're talking about. The Darth Maul stuff is amazing. The young Anakin stuff is kind of cringe sometimes, but we get Liam Neeson. And yeah, the thing with Star Wars is it's not supposed to be an amazing movie. It's just supposed to be about the lore. We get into the lore here. Some people didn't like the middle. Coming in at 6, Attack of the Clones. People are going to call me crazy, but Yoda fighting itself puts this movie here ahead of all the other movies. The Jango Fett stuff, the stuff on Kamino, the Obi-Wan stuff, Count Dooku. Obviously, a lot of this movie's cringe, but I have it slightly ahead of Phantom Menace. I think you could put Phantom Menace ahead of this. But again, all of the OG characters, Hayden Christensen's first appearance. This movie's become pretty campy for me. I like this movie. So if people want to shit on it, fine. But having this movie behind sequel movies just feels like sacrilegious as a Star Wars fan. I'm not going to do it. Coming in at number 5, Rogue One. Possibly one of the most shocking theater experiences of my life. I remember I saw this with my dad. We could not believe what we were seeing. We walked out. We couldn't believe what we just witnessed. It was so good. I remember going in there. Were all these rumors, reshoots. That's not so good. Blah 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 blah. It was amazing. I wish I could put it higher on the list. I just can't put it ahead of the movies I have ahead of this. But I think you can make the argument, as crazy it is, this is possibly the best Star Wars movie ever made. Again, I'm not going to put it up there, but it's so good. It's by far the best movie that Disney has made. Really just a perfect movie, and then it led into a really good season of Andor. Number 4, Return of the Jedi. This has really turned into probably the most underrated Star Wars movie. No one really has it as their favorite. It really gets kind of buried beyond the last two. But there's some really, really good set pieces. I mean, the Jabba the Hutt Palace set piece versus the Hoth set piece to begin the movies is really just up to opinion. That's become one of my favorite set pieces. I mean, in video games, Jabba's Palace is one of the best boards. Um, a little bit dumb that they just decided to blow up half of a Death Star again. Um, but this movie is really why The Last Jedi is so stupid because of how this movie ends. And Luke is just trying to save Darth Vader the entire movie. So for him not to believe in it in The Last Jedi is just so fucking stupid. Coming in at number three, A New Hope. Now, this is where I think any of these are interchangeable. I think you can say A New Hope is the best Star Wars movie of all time. It's one of the best movies of all time, period. I've probably seen this movie more than any other movie in my life. I've seen this movie so many times. It's a flat 2 hours. It is just a really good movie. I think it lasts. I think it's really good. Obviously, it's old now, but I still think it's a good watch. It's hard to put it ahead of Empire, but like I said, I wouldn't have a problem with anyone making this their best movie. I just have it as three. Here's where I'm really going to anger people. Empire Strikes Back, number two. Now, in actuality, this is probably the best Star Wars movie ever made, just from a movie standpoint. I'm not going to deny it, but these are my rankings of my favorite movies. There are days where I wake up having this as number one, but you're going to see what I have as number one that you probably figured out already. This is really the movie that kind of defines Star Wars. It's their best product that they've ever put out. From the Emperor to Lando, Cloud City, I Am Your Father, we meet Yoda in this movie. This is really the iconic Star Wars movie. This is their kind of Godfather. Their kind of this is just their masterpiece. But I have it at two. And coming in at number one, my favorite movie of all time, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. A lot of people, if you've watched this far, are going to get triggered, but I know some of you are going to agree with me. This is my favorite Star Wars movie. This was a perfect culmination. The drama, the stakes. I mean, this movie had so much stakes. Even though you kind of knew what was going to happen, you didn't know how they were going to do it. You didn't know the timeline of how they were going to do it. I think they nailed this movie. I think for so many years, people were kind of embarrassed to have this take that this was their favorite Star Wars movie when it clearly was for many people. Like I said, it's not a better movie than Empire Strikes Back, but when we're talking from a Star Wars perspective, not a cinema perspective, this is my favorite Star Wars movie. I mean, so many good lightsaber fights. It's crazy how much better lightsaber fights are in this movie. We got Yoda fighting the Emperor. We got the Mace Windu fight. We got the Grievous fight. We got the Dooku fight to begin the movie. The ending is so good. The ending just catapults you into every time you finish this movie, you just want to watch the original trilogy again. So those are my rankings. I absolutely love this movie. I got to do an entire deep dive on all these movies. I'm going to hopefully do commentary, watch them. I want to talk about them all day, every day. Those are my rankings. As always, all opinions are welcome. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.